Summer is upon us, and that means LARP season is now in full swing. If you have never LARPed in summer, do not worry. Here are some survival tips to help you get started. Number 1, drink, drink, drink. You will hear this repeated over and over and over again. You need to be drinking when you are out in summer in general. And I don't mean alcohol, I mean water. Drink water. Alcohol is not water. It can be brilliant to sit around a campfire and have a load of drinks with your mates. It's a great night, but it's not a great way to keep you hydrated. And if you end up down the first aid tent because you're not feeling well and you're dehydrated, those first aiders are not going to be impressed with you. Dehydration is probably the easiest way to ruin a LARP event. Even if you are not running around like a crazy person fighting for your life, you are still likely going to be out in the hot sun, and that means dehydration is super easy to do. If you plan on doing anything at LARP that isn't just sitting around doing nothing, then you need to be drinking water. If you are planning on doing nothing at LARP and just sitting around and enjoying the sun, you need to be drinking water. Many people will tell you that if you are feeling thirsty, you are already in the early stages of dehydration. And that means it is really important to keep on top of your water intake at any LARP event. Have a drinking container as part of your LARP kit. There are great water skins and bottles out there that you can carry water in, or if you've got easy access to a tap with drinking water, then make sure you've got a cup, a mug, a tankard, anything that means that you can get hold of a drink regularly. On any normal day, you should be consuming approximately 1.2 litres of water to remain hydrated. However, in hot weather, some doctors recommend that you consume as much as 3 litres of water per day. And that should allow you to remain properly hydrated. Now, it is possible to overconsume on water, so do keep that in mind. Water intoxication can cause the electrolytes in your blood to actually dilute far too much. So it is really important to regulate the amount of water you are intaking. To maintain a healthy dilution of electrolytes, you really should be consuming no more than 1 litre of water per hour. You don't want to end up in first aid from either being dehydrated or overhydrated, so make sure that you break this up in good intervals so that you remain hydrated throughout the day. And it is really important to remember that alcohol and fizzy drinks are not water. They can actually, in fact, increase your risk of dehydration. And that is because they are diuretics, which means that they cause your body to release more water when you urinate. So when you put them into your body, you're actually losing more water than you're putting in. Dehydration is actually a really common thing that happens at LARP events because people are running around, they're getting excited, and they generally forget to take good care of themselves. It is really important that you take care of yourself at a LARP event, so make sure that you are getting water at regular intervals. Number 2, customize your costume. You will often hear that layers make great LARP costumes, and that is absolutely true. Layered costumes look so much better aesthetically, and for some reason they add a layer of authenticity to your character. But layers are actually the key to comfortable costumes as well, especially in hot weather. Over the course of a LARP day, unless you are living in a country with a particularly predictable climate, it is very possible that you're going to see a variety of weathers over the course of your event. Cooler mornings can be followed by blistering hot middays, only for the temperatures to drop down to sometimes almost freezing once the sun has set. Now don't get me wrong, it could just be Britain like this. Britain is an interesting place when it comes to its weather. Interesting may be a strong word. We talk about it a lot, that's all you need to know. So when it comes to LARPing, in my country at least, what you want to be able to do is to layer your costumes so that you can add layers or take layers off depending on what the weather is doing next. We tend to want to enjoy the weather before it gets too hot or before it gets too cold, so it's really helpful if we've got layers that we can just take on and off with relative ease. So make sure to focus on layers for your costume. I like to have 3 separate layers for most costumes that I do for my characters now. And that tends to be a light layer, a warm layer, and a waterproof layer. Waterproof being water resistant is probably a fairer term. And having those 3 layers should cover most things that could possibly happen in the wonderful weather of the UK. Light layers are pretty much self-describing. They are both light in weight and they are light in colour. Now, if that doesn't work for your character, that's fine. That's up to you. If you want to be out there in the heavy metal armour in this weather, or you want to be out wearing black because you're spooky and, you know, living in your corner of stabby, fair enough. Do whatever works for you. However, if you are completely open to costume suggestions, then I do recommend you take this one. You're going to want a layer that can breathe and will keep you cool in the blistering heat. Top choices for this: cotton or linen. There are other things out there that will work as well, but these are the 2 I would personally recommend. Both of them are great for keeping you cool because they are light, they are comfortable, and they are porous. And they're both great in character fabrics, which works if you're one of those people who are very particular about, you know, looking authentic. They both absorb moisture really well, which is great for keeping you cool because it will whip sweat away from your skin. Keep in mind, however, that cotton tends to absorb fluids, and that means that it will get heavier the wetter it gets, which will also make it cling to your skin as well, just in case that's something that makes you uncomfortable. My personal choice for underlayers are either shirts like this or the underlayer stuff that you can get from places like Bergschneider. They tend to be really comfortable, really airy, breathe really well. I kind of sometimes wear them as like nighties on hot evenings when I don't really want to have my duvet on me, but I still like to have something covering me because they're really good at keeping me cool and comfortable. And they look great and really in character as well, so points to them. The next layer is your warm layer. Now, it can seem pretty weird to have a warm layer when you're out in the summer sun and, you know, the weather is great. But I have had many occasions where I've looked up at the bright blue sky of a summer's day and realised that with lack of cloud cover, all of the heat that's been radiating from the sun is going to shoot straight back off into the atmosphere. And that can leave some pretty chilly nights here in the UK summer. And if the temperature drops at night after a relatively hot day, you may find that that beautiful light layer that's been keeping you cool and fresh and airy all day long is now freezing. So ideally, you're probably going to want a warmer layer that you can pull on over the top. Ideally, you want multiple layers that you can pull on over the top, and that way you can layer up or down depending on how hot it is, how cold it is, and just make yourself as comfortable as possible. So ideally find a bunch of these layers that look great all together. A lot of people prefer tight layers when they get cold, to bundle them up and lay as much as possible. But if you wear loose layers, essentially it will trap air between each layer, which your body heat will then heat up, and that will allow you to stay much warmer. It will get you warmer faster, and it will keep you warmer for longer, which is pretty much what you need on a chilly summer night. And last but not least, you're going to want a waterproof layer. Now, I don't know where you're from, but spoiler alert, here in the UK, the weather is both chaotic and underwhelming. You can by no means predict it, but 99% of the time it's relatively uninteresting. And unfortunately, that mostly translates to this is a rather rainy country. So you're going to want a layer that can keep you drier the most. Now, cloaks are generally the first choice LARPers go to, for obvious reasons. It's pretty much that one item that can take any costume from being from anywhere to ultimately being fantasy like that. Now, I've gone through what kind of fabrics you should use for your cloaks before. Canvas is my personal choice because once it's wet, those fibres expand and that makes it really good for keeping the water off. Last I checked, Epic Armory had a load of them in lots of different colours, so yeah, props to them. I have a dark blue one, love it, works very well. Other people I know prefer wool because that also can be very waterproof, or they even prefer waxed fabrics. So have a shop around to see what solution is best for you. You want to make sure that it suits you comfortably, that it suits your character, but most of all that it suits your budget as well, because some of these can be pretty pricey. And after having all those 3 layers, one thing I would recommend is some form of head covering. And that is because having a sunburnt scalp is probably one of the most frustrating things I've ever had. They make sun cream for your scalp now, by the way, like spray on oil sun cream that you can put on, and it's designed to not make your hair greasy somehow. So there's no excuse if you have thin hair on top. Make sure that you're putting on something to, keep your skin safe. Do remember that having a hat is not going to prevent you from getting heat stroke. You need to make sure that you take other precautions as well. Keep an eye on any armor that you're wearing. Obviously, especially if it's metal or heavy leather, it's not going to breathe. So you're going to find yourself trapping a lot of hot air under there. They are probably the worst thing you can wear in hot weather. And frankly, in the summer, I don't think it's worth suffering through uncomfortable costumes for the sake of looking cool. If you look at it and think it's probably going to be stifling to wear, odds are you're right. So if you insist on wearing armor, try to only wear it for short sessions so that you don't get overwhelmed, or just forego it and wait until cooler weather arrives. And if you absolutely insist on it, then try and stay out of the sun, especially during the hottest parts of the day. Keep hydrated and rest as much in the shade as you can. And ideally, make sure you can take it off as quickly as possible if you get too uncomfortable. Number 3, beware of bugs and beware of burns. Now this is pretty much advice you will get for any summer activity that you may choose to do. So why am I bringing this up in a LARP video? Well, that's very simple. It's because, I will say it again, LARPers are really bad at taking care of themselves. We're typically very busy people. We're running around trying to save the world. We've got a lot going on. So, we tend to forego self-care for the sake of having a good time. This is a mistake. Often people are either too busy or too relaxed to remember basic things like sun cream. And then typically we all act shocked when we've all got this beautiful red glow after an event as our skin feels like it's burning from our faces. I know many people, myself included, who typically forget to put on sun cream before they put their character's face paint on. And many of those people, myself included, have been too lazy to take the face paint off, start putting on the sun cream, and then do the makeup all over again. Because it just seems like too much effort. This is a mistake. Face paint does not protect your face from sunburn. It looks like it should. It doesn't. All you end up with afterwards is a red face and a mind full of regrets. So, if your LARP is going to be outside, even for a moment, make sure you put that sun cream on before you put on your character makeup. Even on cloudy days. Just because you cannot see the sun does not mean those UV rays are not going to be hitting your face constantly. The shade of clouds looks like it will protect you from the sun. They don't. It's a lie. And even if they did, in the summer, clouds can disappear at a moment's notice because weather. British weather. Underwhelmingly chaotic. And there's now no excuse. You can get sun cream that can go on after your makeup is on your face. I literally found this out at the last event I went to just a few weeks ago. I didn't know this was a thing. You can literally get them in sprays. You just close your eyes, put it on over your makeup, and boom, you're done, you're ready to go. This is a godsend for LARPers. You can put it under your makeup as well, but if you're like me and a completely forgetful idiot, then at least you know that once you've got all that face paint on, you can put it on over the top and you'll still be okay. There's no need to rub it in, you just spray it on. It can be a little greasy, so maybe put on some setting powder just to, take that shine off, and boom, you're ready to go. There are no longer any excuses. Now, keep in mind insects. Now, I'm not going to patronise you and tell you all about the wonderful world of insects. Even if you're not a particularly outdoorsy person, you're aware there's insects in the world and that they can bite and it's particularly uncomfortable. What may surprise you, however, is the sheer volume of insects. Summer is a glorious time for bugs to just come out of everywhere. Particularly if you are A, drinking alcohol, or B, LARPing near any decent body of water. Sweet alcohols, like fruit ciders for instance, are a magnet for insects. as are fizzy drinks. Especially my ultimate enemy in the world, wasps. They can't help it. The sugar just draws them in. And if I get up in the morning and see a bunch of cider bottles on the floor that somebody has left out because they couldn't be bothered to throw them away, I know there's going to be a swarm of wasps just around them, and I can't stand it. In addition, as an interesting fact, flies are never more than 100 meters away from a source of water. Now, if you live like me in a particularly urban environment, this doesn't really occur to you because sources of water are pretty much within 100 meters of everywhere. But if you're out in the woods in general, you may find that there's a larger amount of insects around areas where you are closer to a pond or a stream. And depending where you are in the world, that could also involve mosquitoes. Now, people often associate mosquitoes with hot countries. And I get that. That's sort of the image I had in my head as well. However, what I have now discovered is that there are more than 30 different species of mosquito who are native to the UK. Yep, this tiny little rainy island that is on the same latitude as Canada and Siberia has 30 species of mosquito. And mosquitoes like to breed in stagnant or slow-moving water, like ponds or streams. See where I'm going with this? So do make sure to take insect repellent with you if you're going LARPing. There are loads of them that you can get just over the counter at different shops. And truthfully, the cheapest brands usually work just fine. The only thing I will warn you about is citronella candles, which are amazing. I love those because they do keep the nasty buggies away, especially the evil ones, wasps. However, there is a very strong possibility that your LARP is going to have rules about open flame candles. And that's because these are a fire hazard, and when you mix fire hazard with drunk LARPers, that's going to go well. Fact is the event insurance may not cover it, so if you're planning on bringing citronella candles to keep those bugs away, do check your LARP rules first just to make sure they're okay with the organisers. It will be the worst thing if you've brought those to keep the bugs away and then you find out you can't even use them. Number 4, take care of your weapons. Now, if you're a fighter type character, you can expect probably to be out fighting most of the hot day. And that can be quite an experience for your LARP weapons. For example, if your weapon was constructed with glue from a hot glue gun, then surprise, surprise, that glue may start to melt again under the hot sun, which can severely compromise the safety of your weapon. My personal bugbear is arrows. Now, I am an archer at most LARPs, I really enjoy it, so I come across this problem way more than anyone should have to. A lot of IDV arrows have these beautiful single fletching flights. And they can be really great, and I presume that the flights are quite cheap to put on. However, they do have this habit of being sealed on with glue from a hot glue gun, which means they melt in the sun. And that compromises the secure attachment of your fletching to your arrow, which can cause it to spin, which can make your arrow rather unsafe to use. So if you know your weapon has been sealed with hot glue, make sure that you keep it out of the heat as much as you can. Or, even better, if you're constructing a weapon yourself, don't use hot glue from a glue gun. Or, if you're buying stuff like me and buying these IDV arrows, secure the fletching with something a little bit better. I like super glue. Works so much better. As well, if your weapon has latex as part of its coating, that can react rather interestingly in the sun as well, especially if you've got a stack of weapons all piled up together. Part of the coating can melt in the heat, which means it starts to stick to stuff. One of the worst things you ever have to do is try and peel your LARP weapons apart without damaging the latex, which, by the way, I have yet to find somehow a way to do it perfectly. So if you are not using your LARP weapons, even at home, make sure you store them in a cool place and separate from one another so they're not touching. It is a real pain to get out a LARP weapon, whether it be at home so that you can take it with you to an event, or you've been out all day fighting and you've gone back to get it and you just find that they're stuck together and now they're pretty much unusable. So make sure that you're storing your weapons separately from one another, ideally not against something they can actually stick to, and you check on them regularly so you can make sure that they aren't getting damaged in your absence. Number 5, play responsibly. LARP is so much fun, and there are many days where you will stand out there, look at the setting sun and go, I don't know where the day went, I've just been so busy. And it's a great feeling. But it's also really easy to go, I don't think I ate lunch today. It's so easy to do. And trust me, loads of us do it. But if there is anything that even resembles being the wrong way to LARP, not taking care of yourself is pretty much it. Especially in high heat where it's really easy to lose perception of time. You will hear terms like self-care so much in the LARP community because we're just that bad at taking care of ourselves. Make sure your self-care is your priority through the event. Take breaks, take as many breaks as you need to, more than you want to if necessary. Go on your phone first thing in the morning before you get into character, check what the weather forecast is going to be. Make a note of what times are expected to be the hottest, and try and remind yourself to get out of the sun during those times. Set an alarm for yourself if you have to. Make sure you take the time to reapply your sunscreen. Make sure you take the time to drink water. Stop, get into the shade. Maybe have a catch up with your friends while the day is hot and just cool off together. Have a nap if you need to. Just make sure to get out of the heat when it's the worst and cool yourselves off. There's nothing wrong with moderating your gameplay for the sake of your health. Fear of missing out is a big thing and we all feel it because there's so much going on and you want to make sure you don't miss a thing. But unless you're at a single day event where you've got a very limited amount of time, there is nothing that can happen in a game that you can't catch up on after a small break. It is really okay to go and take your time and just go and sit in the shade for a while. Manage your time effectively, take care of yourselves, and we can all look forward to having a great summer of LARP. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on a battlefield soon.